الحمد لله حمدا كثيرا طيبا مباركا فيه كما يحب ربنا ويرضى. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله الناصح الأمين. اللهم صل على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ومن تمسك بسنته إلى يوم الدين. ثم أما بعد، حدثني جماعة من الشيوخ بإسناد كل إلى سفيان بن عيينة عن عمرو بن دينار عن أبي قابوس مولى عبد الله بن عمرو عن عبد الله بن عمرو بن عاص رضي الله تعالى عنهما أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال: الراحمون يرحمهم الرحمن ارحموا من في الأرض يرحمكم من في السماء. وقال العلماء ذلك بأن العلم رحمة، نتيجته رحمة في الدنيا وغايته الرحمة في الآخرة. الحمد لله على نعمة الإسلام والسنة. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said that verily, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said that those who show mercy, they will be shown mercy by the most merciful. Be merciful to those who are in the earth, and the one who is above the heavens will show you mercy. The ulama, they mention this is because knowledge is mercy. And the reason that the ulama from the past, they will begin their lessons with the likes of this dua, and they will begin teaching their students, and this will be the first hadith in which they heard from them. For this hadith is musalsal bil awwaliyah. This hadith is a hadith in which they will learn firstly from their mashayikh, and that is because knowledge is rahmah. The result of knowledge in this world is mercy, and the ultimate result of knowledge in the hereafter, the ultimate goal of knowledge in the hereafter, then it is the attainment of mercy. Ala kulli hal, alhamdulillah ala ni'matil islami wa sunnah. All praise and thanks belong to Allah for guiding us to Islam and for guiding us to the Sunnah. We continue going over the tremendous book by Imam al-Nawawi rahimahullahu ta'ala, al-Arba'in al-Nawawiyya. We have reached the 6th hadith, and that is the hadith of Abi Abdullah Nu'man bin Bashir radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. قال رضي الله تعالى عنهما قال: سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول. He said, I heard the Messenger of Allah صلى الله عليه وسلم say, إن الحلال بين, that verily the halal is clear. وإن الحرام بين, and that verily the haram, it is clear. وبينهما أمور مشتبهات, and between them two, then there are issues that are doubtful. There are issues that are doubtful. لا يعلمهن كثير من الناس. Many of the people, they don't know. لا يعلمهن كثير من الناس. Many of the people, they don't know what are the rulings as relates to those doubtful matters. فمن اتقى الشبهات. So whoever has stayed away from the shubuhat, فقد استبرأ لدينه وعرضه, then he would have safeguarded himself as relates to his religion and as relates to his reputation. He would have safeguarded himself as relates to his religion and as relates to his reputation. وَمَنْ وَقَعَ فِي الشُّبُهَاتِ, and whoever enters into the shubuhat or draws near unto the shubuhat, وَقَعَ فِي الْحَرَامِ, whoever embarks upon doubtful matters, then ultimately they will embark upon haram. كَالرَّاعِي, like a shepherd, يرعى حول الحمى, who brings his flock into near proximity of a sanctuary. يوشق أن يرتع فيه, then he is very close, or it's drawing into it, or his flock, they will enter into the sanctuary and break the boundaries of the sanctuary. ألا وإن لكل ملك حمى, is it not except that every king has a sanctuary? ألا وإن حمى الله محارمه, and is it not except that the sanctuary of Allah are those things that are prohibited? That area that is forbidden, or those things that are prohibited. ألا وإن في الجسد مضغة, is it not except that there is inside of the body a morsel of flesh? إذا صلحت صلح جسد كله, if it is rectified, then all of the body will be rectified. وإذا فسدت فسد جسد كله, and if it is corrupted, then all of the body will be corrupt. ألا وهي القلب, is it not except but the heart? Is it not except but the heart? Hadeeth متفق عليه رواه البخاري ومسلم. This hadith is agreed upon its authenticity. It is collected by both al-Bukhari and Muslim rahimahullah ta'ala. قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم إن الحلال بين وإن الحرام بين وبينهما أمور مشتبهات, that verily the halal is clear and the haram is clear, and between both of them then there are doubtful matters. لا يعلمهن كثير من الناس, many of the people are unaware of them. Many of the people are unaware of their ruling. Meaning, قال العلامة, the Allama, the great scholar, the Muhaddith of Medina, الشيخ عبد المحسن العباد البدر حفظه الله تعالى, he says فيه تقسيم الأشياء إلى ثلاثة أقسام. He said, in this then there is a breakdown of things, of which and as such as they break down into three different categories. As such as they break down into three different categories. Naam. Al-awwal, the first of these categories, then it is the halal. Al-halalul bayyin. It is the permissible that is clear, that is well known. Those things that are permissible and they are well known and clearly permissible. The Shaykh, he brings some examples. He says, Kal-hubub, like seeds, for example. Naam. When it comes to the likes of sunflower seeds, sesame seeds, pumpkin seeds, and the like, then these are halal. And no one doubts that. No one debates that. No one is confused about that. There is no ambiguity as relates to that and to its ruling. Wathimar, and like fruits. Like fruits. There's no ambiguity as to relates to their ruling. An apple, it is halal. No one debates you about that. An orange, it is halal. No one debates you about that. A banana, it is halal. There is no debate about that. وَبَهِيمَةِ الْأَنْعَامِ, and those animals, those cattle, in which we eat from their meat and the like, no one debates about whether or not they are halal or haram. So beef, for example, it is halal. Chicken, for example, it is halal. And so on and so forth, from those animals in which human beings, in which we eat from those permissible animals. The likes of sheep, right? The likes of camel, so on and so forth. These things, they are halal bila shak wa bila raib. The Shaykh mentions, he says, إِذَا لَمْ تَصِلْ إِلَى الْإِنسَانِ بِالطَّرِيقِ الْحَرَامِ, if it does not reach an individual by way that is haram. بِالطَّرِيقِ الْحَرَامِ. So for example, if a person steals one of the aforementioned things, they steal sunflower seeds, or they steal ground beef and the like, then that's different. Then this is different. But outside of that, if it comes in a halal manner, then it is halal, and there's no debate about that, and that is well known. And then the second type of things, you have that which is al-haram al-bayyin, that which is clearly haram. It is clearly haram. Naam. And the Shaykh, he brings in examples. He says, kashurb al-khamr, like the drinking of alcohol. The drinking of alcohol and intoxicating beverages, this is haram. There is no debate about that. Naam. Wa akl al-mayta, and the eating of the dead, eating dead things. Eating things that have died on their own, being a scavenger and the like, then this is haram. Person finds a dead animal on the roadkill, and he says we're going to stop and grab it and barbecue it. There's no one in their right mind that will debate that is haram. No one would debate whether or not it is haram or halal. It's clear that is haram. It's clear. وَالنِّكَاحِ ذَوَاتِ الْمَحَارِمِ, and marrying from your maharim, or relations with maharim, then this is haram. This is well known. So a person marrying their sister, right, marrying their daughter, so on and so forth and the like, this is haram. This is well known. That is haram, and no one debates that fact. This is haram. خلاص. وهذان يعلمهما, and these two, يعلمهما الخاصة والعامة, and of these two affairs, everyone knows these affairs. So the general masses and the people of knowledge and all know these affairs, that which is clearly haram and that which is clearly halal. And then the third affair you have, and that is mushtabihat. They are those things that are doubtful. Al-mutaraddida, those things that people are apprehensive as relates to their ruling. And that is because, as the ulama, they explain, it is because this thing, it is similar to that which is halal in some aspect, and it is similar to that which is haram in some aspect. So there's an aspect to it that will lead one to think that maybe it is halal, but at the same time, there is an aspect to it that will lead one into thinking, well, maybe perhaps it is haram. It's not 100% clear. It's not 100% clear. There are those things in which a person, then they are apprehensive about and as relates to them. يعني مترددة بين الحلال وبين الحل والحرمة. They are as apprehensive whether it is permissible or impermissible. So a person may sway back and forth. Is permissible? Maybe not permissible. Maybe haram. Maybe not haram. Maybe permissible. They don't know. They sway back and forth. نعم. فليست من الحلال البين. It is not from that which is clearly halal. ولا من الحرام البين. And it is not from that which is clearly haram. نعم. It's not from that which is clearly haram. وهذه لا يعلمها كثير من الناس. And these, many people are unaware of their real ruling. Now, there's an important point here, as Sheikh Muhammad Bazmoul, hafidhullah ta'ala, he points out, and that is that what? Is that the likes of these affairs, we will see from this hadith that the ruling on whether something is halal or haram is known about everything. Now, meaning that what? There are no truly gray matters of which are unknown to everyone. So the ruling is known. The ruling for all things as relates to whether they are halal or haram, it is known. However, they are not known to everyone. You will have those things that are clearly halal, and that's known to everyone. You have those things that are clearly haram, and that is known to everyone. And then you have those things that are doubtful, that those things, they are not known to everyone, but you have from the ulama those who know. You have from the ulama those who know their ruling. And that is seen from the statement of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, لا يعلمهن كثير من الناس, and that many people don't know them. Many people are unaware of their ruling. So this points us to the fact that what? But some people are aware of their ruling. Some people do know them. Now, ala kulli hal, you have from mankind those who know what the ruling it is. So alhamdulillah, there are no truly gray matters that are unknown to everyone. Now, it's just the doubtful things. Many of the people don't know their ruling. Many of the people, they are unaware of it. So what is the stance of the individual when it comes to the likes of these things that are unknown, or these things that are doubtful, that are not known to everyone? What is the stance of the Muslim when they encounter one of these doubtful matters? Their stance is that they are to stay away from it. Their stance is that they are to stay away from it, and they're not to embark upon it. Now I want you to reflect. Those issues that are issues of debate, great debate. Should we do them? Should we not do them? Are they permissible? Are they impermissible? So on and so forth. Now, these issues are to be avoided until it is known and is clear to the individual their ruling, their true ruling. Until then they are to stay away from embarking upon the likes of these things. The Prophet ﷺ, as relates to the doubtful matters, he commanded us to stay away from that which causes us doubt. Now, as it comes in another hadith that bi'idhnillahi ta'ala we will come to later on in this collection, leave that which makes you doubt for that which does not make you doubt. Now, so if there's something comes and it makes you doubt, leave it alone. Leave it alone. Leave it. Now, the Prophet ﷺ, he said, فَمَنِ اتَّقَى الشُّبُهَاتِ, so whoever stays away from the doubtful matters, فَقَدْ اسْتَبْرَأَ لِدِينِهِ وَعِرْضِهِ, then he would have cleared his deen and cleared his reputation. He would have safeguarded his religion and would have safeguarded his reputation. نعم. وَمَنْ وَقَعَ فِي الشُّبُهَاتِ وَقَعَ فِي الْحَرَامِ, and whoever embarks upon the doubtful matters, then they will ultimately embark upon the haram. And then the Prophet ﷺ, he brings an example. He says, كَالرَّاعِ يَرْعَى حَوْلَ الْحِمَى, like a shepherd that brings his flock to graze near to a sanctuary. يُوشِقُ أَنْ يَرْتَعْ فِيهِ, then they're going to fall into it. They're going to eat from the grass and from the vegetation of that sanctuary. نعم. ألا وإن لكل ملك حمى, is it not except that every king has a sanctuary? يعني ألا وإن حمى الله محارمه, is it not except that the sanctuary يعني for Allah are those things in which he has made haram? A Sheikh, he mentions, the Sheikh Abdul Muhsin حفظه الله تعالى, هذا يرجع إلى القسم الثالث, that this goes back to the third category. And that third category is those things that are doubtful. Now, it returns back. This speech here is in relation to the third category. And the third category, يعني هو مشتبهات, it is those things which are doubtful. Those things that are not in entirely clearly halal or haram. Now, فَيَتَجَنَّبُهَا الْإِنسَانِ, so an individual is to stay away from them. Individuals to stay away from them, and is to leave them alone and to avoid them. وَفِي ذَلِكَ السَّلَامَةِ, because in that then there will be peace, there will be safety for that individual, يعني لِدِينِهِ وَلِعِرْضِهِ, for his deen and for his reputation. نعم. والسلامة للعرض فيما بينه وبين الناس, so he will have safety in his reputation and that which is between him and that which is between Allah. Right. So where's the salama? He will have safety in his reputation between him and between the people. Now, he will have safety in his reputation between him and between the people. Right. But where's the safety as relates to the deen? Naam, walidini, the safety as relates to his deen, أي فيما بينه وبين الله, between him and between Allah. So if you stay away from something because you were doubtful on whether or not this thing was halal or it was haram, but by you staying away from it and not embarking upon it, then you will have not entered into the haram. So you are safe. So you are safe. So if you left off something that was halal because you were unclear, you didn't know that it was halal, and you left it off out of fear of it being haram, then you're safe as relates to your deen, because ultimately you did not fall into the haram. So that you are safe in that which is between you and between Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if you leave off those doubtful matters as relates, whether they are halal or haram, then as relates to that which is between you and between the people, then you are above reproach as relates to this particular affair. They can't accuse you of falling into something that you have left. They can't accuse you of falling into something that you did not embark upon. فَلَا يَكُونُ لَهُمْ سَبِيلٌ إِلَى النَّيْلِ مِنْ عِرْضِهِ بِسَبَبِ ذَلِكَ. So there will not be any reason, any cause, any justification for them to speak bad about this individual due to that particular affair, to speak bad about this individual because they embarked upon said particular issue or thing and the like. So they'll be safe as relates to their reputation. However, if a person becomes lax as relates to these affairs, the Shaykh, he mentions, he says, وَإِذَا تَسَاهَلَ فِي الْوُقُوعِ فِي الْمُشْتَبِهَاتِ فَقَدْ يَجُرُّهُ ذَلِكَ إِلَى الْوُقُوعِ فِي الْمُحَرَّمَاتِ الْوَاضِحَاتِ. If a person becomes lax as relates to those doubtful affairs, if a person embarks upon doubtful affairs and it pays no attention to embarking upon those doubtful affairs, then this will acclimate an individual and prepare an individual and ultimately plunge an individual into falling into those clearly haram affairs. Then they will fall into that which is clearly haram. وقد ضرب النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم لذلك المثل. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he brought an example as it relates to this. بالراعي, with the shepherd, يرعى حول الحمى, who brings his flock to graze near to a sanctuary. فإنه إذا كان بعيدا من الحمى سلم من وقوع ماشيته في الحمى. If he takes his flock and he keeps them far away from the sanctuary, then his flock will be far away from embarking upon the vegetation inside of the sanctuary. His flock will be far away from falling into the sanctuary. وَإِذَا كَانَ قَرِيبًا مِنْهُ, but if he is near unto it and he brings his flock in close proximity to the sanctuary, أَوْشَكَ أَن تَقَعَ مَاشِيَتُهُ فِيهِ, then his flock ultimately will start to graze also from the sanctuary. They will also graze from the sanctuary, وَهُوَ لَا يَشْعُرُ, and he would not have perceived it. He would not have taken notice. They would have eaten from the sanctuary and he would not have realized it. Why? Due to the closeness of their proximity to the sanctuary. And this is the reality. وَالْمُرَادُ بِالْحِمَى, and what is intended here by sanctuary, يعني ما يحميه الملوك وغيرهم, it is that which is sectioned off and protected by the kings and those and others, by the kings and by others. من الأراضي المخصبة, from those lands that have been clearly outlined and designated, fenced off, as being, no trespassing. Okay, no one is to embark upon the likes of this. Those things that have been outlined and allocated and set aside, that there is no entry, there is no entrance, so on and so forth. A sanctuary. يَمْنَعُونَ غَيْرَهُمْ مِنْ قُرْبِهَا, of such that they are clearly marked and identified as such that it prevents individuals from even getting close to it. It prevents individuals from getting close to it. نعم. فَالَّذِي يَرْعَى حَوْلَهَا يُوشِقُ أَنْ يَقَعَ فِيهَا, so whoever will graze near unto it, then they're going to fall into it. those who graze near unto it, then they're going to fall into it. فَيُعَرِّضُ نَفْسَهُ لِلْعُقُوبَةِ, and then he would have thus subjected himself to punishment. He would have thus subjected himself to being punished. Why? Because he has violated the sanctity of the sanctuary. وَحِمَ اللَّهِ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ الْمَحَارِمُ الَّتِي حَرَّمَهَا, and the sanctuary of Allah Azza wa Jal, then it is those things in which He has made haram. Those things in which He has made haram. فَيَجِبُ عَلَى الْمَرْءِ الْإِبْتِعَادِ عَنْهَا. So it is incumbent for an individual that they stay far away from it. They stay far removed from it. Naam, far removed from that which is haram. So that what? So that the individual does not embark and fall into the haram. If you're far from the haram, then you can't fall into the haram. Naam, and the like. The Shaykh he goes on to mention, وَعَلَيْهِ يَبْتَعِدَ عن المشتبهات التي قد يؤدي إليها. So he must stay away from the doubtful matters that could potentially plunge him into the haram. Naam, he has to stay away from the doubtful matters that will eventually plunge him into the haram. The Prophet ﷺ, he also mentioned, أَلَا وَإِنَّ فِي الْجَسَدِ الْمُضْغَةِ, and is it not except that there is in the body a morsel of flesh? إِذَا صَلَحَ صَلَحَ الْجَسَدُ كُلُّهُ, if it is rectified, then all of the body is rectified. وَإِذَا فَسَدَ فَسَدَ الْجَسَدُ كُلُّهُ, and if it is corrupted, then all of the body is corrupted. نعم. أَلَا وَهِيَ الْقَلْبِ, and is it not except that it is the heart? Is it not except that it is the heart? وَالْمُضْغَةِ, a mudghah, and we went over this, in the aforementioned, in previous classes. Now, المضغة قطعة من اللحم. It is a piece of meat. It is a piece of meat. على قدر ما يمضغه الآكل, about the size of what can fit in a mouth, bite size. Okay, a morsel of flesh, the size of which can fit inside the mouth, and that what has been chewed, has been bitten. وفي هذا بيان عظم شأن القلب, and in this there is a clear explanation, a clear lesson, which shows us the importance of the heart. Naam, which shows us a portion of the heart. This morsel of flesh, this heart, naam, which is the size or similar in size to an individual's fist. Okay, inside of one's body. Then this is what it shows us: the importance of the heart. The importance of the heart, not just from a physical standpoint, not just from the standpoint of remaining alive, naam, and for the sustainability of life, but also as relates to an individual's soul. Also as relates to an individual's soul and their disposition, their internal disposition. The heart is extremely important. The heart is extremely important on a spiritual and a physical level. The heart is of extreme importance. As such, as the ulama they say, وَأَنَّهُ مَلِكُ الْأَعْضَاءِ, because the heart is the king of the limbs. The king of the limbs, the ruler of the limbs, then verily it is the heart. نعم. وَإِنَّهَا تَصْلُحُ بِصَلَاحِهِ, in that the limbs will be rectified by the rectification of the heart. The limbs themselves, they will be rectified by the rectification of the heart. وَتَفْسُدُ بِفَسَادِهِ, and they will be corrupted by the corruption of the heart. When one looks at the righteous person and compares them to the irrighteous person, the irreligious person, they will find that those who are healthy, they are on the same playing field as relates to their limbs. So we're looking at two healthy individuals, okay? Two healthy individuals. They are on the same playing field as relates to their limbs. This one has arms, this one has arms, this one has hands, this one has hands, this one has feet, that one has feet, so on and so forth. The difference is that one will utilize their physical being, their hands, legs, eyes, ears, mouth, tongue, so on and so forth, in a manner that is halal. Whereas the other will utilize those same limbs in a manner that is haram. What is the difference? Is it because their limbs are different? No, we have already established that their limbs are the same. Same playing field. What is the difference between this one and between that one? It is their heart. That is the difference, the heart. That is what separates the actions of why this one is good and why this one is bad. Because what? This one has a good heart. The other one, his heart is evil. His heart is corrupted. His heart is polluted. Now, this is the difference. Is what? It's the heart. So what is the deciding factor and the ruler of the limbs? Then it is the heart. If the heart is rectified, then the limbs will be upon rectification. If the heart is corrupted, then the limbs will be upon corruption. Naam. So the heart is of extreme importance. Naam, is of extreme importance. So concentrating on the matters of the heart is of extreme importance. For anyone who is truly concerned about their well-being in the hereafter, then they have to concentrate on rectifying and cleaning their hearts. Anyone who is truly upon the sunnah of Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then they have to be concerned with their heart. They have to be concerned with the rectification of their heart. Now, the same way, no, rather even more so, then individuals are concerned about the physical health of their heart. So they're making sure that they're taking in good cholesterol and not the bad cholesterol. They're making sure that they're on a diet that is conducive for cholesterol levels and so on and so forth. Now, even more so, making sure they exercise, making sure, and the like. Even more so. And this is not to knock those things. Those things are important. Do those things too. But what is even more important is the condition of your heart. Yani, from a spiritual level, is even more important. Even more important than is physical health. Because if an individual is concerned about not putting foods into their stomachs that could have an ill effect upon their heart, then they have to also be concerned to not ingest things, whether that be through their eyes or through their ears or through their mouths or any other way in which things could enter into one's person that will have an ill effect upon a person's heart. Now, so those things that are haram, listening to the haram, the ear is the passageway by way in which it will reach into your heart. In that situation, listening to those things that are haram, it will ill affect your heart and it will be disease to your heart, worse than cholesterol. Looking at that which is haram, now, in this instance, now your eyes, they are the passageway by way in which will reach your heart. So looking at things that are haram, now, then this will be more dangerous to your heart than being upon a high fat, high cholesterol, high saturated fat diet. Okay? And so on and so forth. So we have to be concerned with the condition of our hearts. Imam al-Nawawi, قال إمام النووي رحمه الله تعالى قوله صلى الله عليه وسلم فمن وقع في الشبهات وقع في الحرام, that whoever falls into the doubtful matters, they will fall into the haram. He mentions يحتمل أمرين. This entails two different affairs. It could possibly entail two different affairs right? The first of them, أن يقع في الحرام وهو يظن أنه ليس بحرام, is that they will fall into the haram while thinking that it's not haram. Because remember, it's doubtful. They don't know. They don't know whether it's halal or it's haram. Could be this, could be that. They don't know. But however, they throw caution to the wind. They say, I'm doing it anyway. I'm not sure. It's halal, haram, I don't know. But I don't know, I'm going to do it. It is possible they'll fall into it and they don't think it's haram. They'll do it and they don't believe it's haram. They don't know that it is actually haram. So this is one possibility that presents itself when you do doubtful things, is that you will potentially do something haram while believing it's not haram, while thinking that it's not haram. So this is why you stay away from the doubtful things. The other thing that could potentially happen when you do things and you fall into that which is doubtful, Imam An-Nawawi, he mentions, he says, الثاني أن يكون المعنى قد قارب أن يقع في الحرام كما قال المعاصي بريد الكفر. He said is that it can also mean that by falling into the doubtful matters, it will draw you near into falling into the haram and acclimate you into falling into the haram, just like it is said that sins are the postcard of disbelief, meaning that what sins will drag a person near to disbelief, and if they make those sins and deem those sins as being permissible and being halal, then it will plunge a person into disbelief. So sins will acclimate a person for disbelief. Now, to put it in another way, sins could acclimate a person towards disbelief. Likewise, doubtful matters will acclimate a person for forbidden things. Doubtful matters, embarking upon doubtful matters, will acclimate a person for falling into and embarking upon prohibited things. لأن النفس إذا وقعت في المخالفة تدرجت من مفسدة إلى أخرى أكبر منها. Because the individual, when they fall into the sins, they will digressively go to sins that are even worse. They will ultimately go to sins that are even worse. For an example, if a person talks to a woman who is haram for them, if a person talks to a woman who is haram for them and has a verbal relationship with said woman, this is haram. But once they have become comfortable with talking to her, then they're going to long to meet with her in person, to have a meeting with her. And meeting with her, then of course this is even more haram, because now the possibility is even greater. Meaning that if a person was speaking from a distance, I want you to come back to the example I'm using here. Talking to her from a distance, from text, from whatever messenger service, right, app and the like, talking with her from a distance. Okay? This is haram. But that will lead ultimately into him what? Meeting with her. That's even more haram. Now you're in the same place. Now, meeting with her, it will come to a point where that is no longer enough. The fact that they are physically in one place and they're talking, right, and they're looking. Also, the looking is from those things that are building up and leading to that which is more haram. Now they're going to want to have physical contact with one another, and that physical contact will start with whatever and then end with wa'iyadu billah. Now, so the point is that what is that haram is linked to each other, the heels of each other. Now, it is like with drugs. A person starts by experimentation with this drug, and then that will lead them to experiment with another drug, and then they build up a tolerance for this thing. So now they add and they go to something else, and then they end up being addicted to heroin, or addicted to crack, or addicted to crystal meth, and so on and so forth. Right? Typically, people just don't jump off the deep end. But they gradually get worse. They gradually get worse. Okay? So this is what is meant by that. That it will acclimate. It will acclimate an individual to doing that which is worse, and that which is worse, and that which is worse. وَقِيلَ, and it is said, وَإِلَيْهِ الْإِشَارَةِ بقوله تعالى, and in it then there is there is a alluding to the statement of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَيَقْتُلُونَ الْأَنْبِيَاءَ بِغَيْرِ الْحَقِّ ذَلِكَ بِمَا عَصَوْا وَكَانُوا يَعْتَدُونَ. And they used to kill the prophets without right. They will murder and assassinate the prophets without right. Speaking about who? The Yahud. Speaking about the Yahud. They used to kill the prophets without right. Now, Allah Ta'ala says that is because of how they used to transgress. Now, that is because or due to their transgressions. That is due to their transgressions. Now, that is because and due to their sins, their transgressions, the sins that they used to do, and because they were so accustomed to sinning, that led them, that they got worse and worse and worse and worse and worse and worse, until it reached a point that they killed the Anbiya. Now, to the point that they killed the Anbiya. That was because of the sins that they used to do, and verily they were a people who were most given to sin. وَيُرِيدُ أَنَّهُمْ تَدَرَّجُوا بِالْمَعَاصِي, that they digressively got worse with sins, إِلَى قَتْلِ الْأَنْبِيَاءِ, until it reached a point where they killed the prophets. Until they reached a point where they killed the prophets. You know, as it said, typically people don't jump into the deep end just straight away like this. Shaitan knows how to break down the individual. So Shaitan, he won't come to an individual and tell an individual, oh, go fornicate with this person, or oh, go stick this needle inside your veins. He won't come like this from the beginning. But he'll come, and for the one, he'll say, look. For the other one, he'll say, perhaps hang out with these people who do drugs. Take a couple sips of this alcohol. Take a couple puffs of this narcotic. Now, until now the person's putting needles in their veins. In the first scenario, until the person has fallen into fornication and adultery, so on and so forth. This is how the shaitan works. He doesn't come to a person and just say to them from the beginning, just make shirk, but rather he'll come to them and he'll beat them down to the accepting misbeliefs and so on and so forth. Now, until then they fall into shirk. Just think about how he tricked the people of Nuh alayhi salatu wassalam to fall into the shirk that they fell into as related to those righteous individuals. He didn't come to them from the beginning, meaning those people that Nuh alayhi salam was sent to. He didn't come to them in the beginning and say, just make shirk, because he knew they wouldn't have gone for that. So he came for them and with his plan, and it led to, and then the people fell into shirk, and shirk began upon the land. Ala kulli hal, this is the nature of sin, is that it will bring you to another sin. Just like with drugs, they will bring you to another drug, so on and so forth. Now, likewise, this is the case with all things that are haram. It will start you in one place and get progressively worse or digressively worse and 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 worse to the end, until, like the Yahud, it got them to the point where they will murder, they will kill and assassinate the Anbiya, wa'iyadu billah. With the Hadeeth, we also see this inside of the Hadeeth, this concept, how things can start off like little and then get bigger. The Prophet ﷺ, he said in the Hadith, he said, لَعْنَ اللَّهِ السَّارِقُ يَسْرِقُ الْبَيْضَ فَتُقْطَعْ يَدُهُ. Now, the Prophet ﷺ, he said, Allah's curse is upon the thief who steals an egg and ultimately ends up getting his hand cut off. Okay? The Prophet ﷺ, he goes on to say, وَيَسْرِقُ الْحَبْلِ فَلْتُقْطَعْ يَدُهُ. Or he steals a rope. He steals somebody's rope. And then he ends up ultimately getting his hand cut off. Now, what do we understand from this? Is this to say that if you steal an egg, you get your hand cut off? No. Is this to say that if you steal a rope, you get your hand cut off? No. Because the likes of these crimes, the likes of this type of theft, this type of petty theft, is not punishable by getting your hand cut off. Now, so what is meant here in this hadith is that what? Is that may the curse of Allah be upon a person who begins off with petty theft. They start off stealing small stuff, but then they don't stop. They get worse and worse and worse and worse and worse and worse until they start stealing things that the punishment is getting the hand cut off. Now, they don't stop. They don't make tawbah and stop and that's it. But they keep going until they get their hand cut off. Now, this is what's understood. Why? Because this was what? تَدَرَّجُ مِنَ الْبَيْضِ وَالْحَبْلِ إِلَى سَرِقَةٍ. They have gone from taking an egg, a rope, you understand, until the point now where they do crimes of which that are punishable by getting your hand cut off. By getting your hand cut off. And this is the nature of sin. So I want us to be very conscious as relates to this and to understand how things work. To understand how things work. This is the nature of sin. It's not a person who's going to say, I'm just going to be an egg stealer and then that's it. No, they're going for stealing eggs, maybe steal a chicken. You understand? Because that's how shaitan works. If a person steal an egg, shaitan comes in, why you want to steal an egg? Might as well steal a chicken. You steal a chicken, you ain't got to steal eggs no more. So then you steal a chicken, you get away with stealing the chicken, now you get free egg because you don't steal the chicken. Then you say, oh, well, now I'm going to steal this and I'm going to steal that. If it work, then next thing you know, so Allah musta'an, now he's made a crime in which he get his hand cut off. Okay? This is the nature of sin. Due to time, we summarize in the last few points. The Shaykh also mentions that Nu'man bin Bashir, radiyallahu ta'ala anhuma, he was from the small of the Sahaba. Yeah, Sigar al-Sahaba, meaning he was from the young Sahaba. He was around 8 years old when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed away, alayhi salatu wasalam. He was about 8 years old. About 8 years old when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he passed away. But he was a young man of fine intelligence. He was a young man of fine intelligence. And also we see a benefit from this is that the Prophet ﷺ, he did not bar him from the gatherings. He did not bar him from the gatherings when he was brought around the men. He did not bar him from the gathering saying, get this little boy out of here, so on and so forth. And how do we understand that? Is that he said, Sami'tu Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam yaqul. He said, I heard the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam saying, which means he was what? He was in the presence of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam when he said the aforementioned hadith, and which points to the fact of his intelligence and that he was a very intelligent and outstanding individual. Was that being at such a young age, he heard this hadith from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and he remembered it, and he transmitted it throughout his life. He transmitted this hadith, which we also understand and we benefit from this is that what? Is that information that will come from an individual that was attained when they were young is acceptable when they tell us about it and they're old. Okay, so when they inform us of it when they're older, even though it was gathered and attained when they were younger, it is still acceptable for us to accept it. Likewise, the ulama they mention is that if an individual came upon information when they were in a state of kufr, when they were in jahiliyyah, when they were a kafir, then they accept Islam and they transmit to us said information, so on and so forth, it's acceptable. It's acceptable. We can't say, oh, he was young, I'm not going to take it. This person was a kafir, so whatever you came upon from whatever information, we don't take. No. You can accept it. You can accept it. And that's a point of benefit that was taken from the hadith. Then the Shaykh, he mentions, he brings some points of benefits that are extracted from this particular hadith. And he says is that, and again, for time, we'll just go through quickly and briefly, inshallah, is that we see from this hadith that in the Sharia, then things, they break down into that which is clearly halal, that which is clearly haram, and then that which is doubtful, which is between the two. That which is doubtful is between the two, meaning that what? There are certain aspects of it that are similar to what is halal, and then there are certain aspects of it that are similar to what is haram. So therefore, it is doubtful. It is a doubtful thing. So we have these three categories. Also, and the second benefit that the Shaykh mentions, he says is that we also understand from this hadith that what is that these things that are doubtful, they are unknown to many of the people. And also at the same time, some of the people know their rulings based upon proofs and evidences. So they are unknown to many, but not all. Because you have from the ulama, those who know. You have from the people of knowledge, those who know. You have perhaps from the students of knowledge, those who have learned from their mashaykh who know, based upon the proofs and the evidences. So it's not unknown to everyone. It is unknown to many, but is known by some, meaning these doubtful matters. The third point of benefit is that what? Is that doubtful matters, they are to be left alone until we know. Things that we don't know the ruling, if it's halal or it's haram, then we leave it until we know what the ruling is. The fourth point of benefit is that the striking of examples to further explain and to help explain concepts is of extreme importance, and that examples could be struck for things that are abstract, just a concept. Then you can bring an example of something that is physical and tangible by way in which will help a person better understand said concept. Fifthly, is that an individual, if he falls into affairs that are doubtful, then ultimately that will lead them into falling into things that are haram. Now, if he falls into affairs that are doubtful, then this will acclimate him into becoming comfortable to just doing the straight up haram. To just doing the straight up haram. Sixthly, is that verily the extreme importance of the heart is outlined here in this hadith, and that the limbs follow the heart. So if the heart is rectified, then all of the limbs will be rectified. And if the heart is corrupted, then all of the limbs, then they will be corrupted. Seventhly, is that the fasad, the open corruption and corrupt acts of an individual, then this is a sign, this is an indication, this is a proof of the corruption of themselves internally, or this is a proof of their internal corruption, that their hearts are corrupt. So a person who's involved in every type of sin, they can't come and say, but I have a good heart. Qalbi abyad. We say to that person, no, this can't be correct. Your heart must be filthy. Why? Because your actions are filthy. The person who has a good heart, then you hear from them good speech. The person who has a good heart, then you see from them good actions. You see from them righteousness. You see from them obedience. If the person has an evil heart, then you see from them disbelief. You see from them all types of nasty and vulgar speech, lack of shyness, so on and so forth. These are all indications that you have a bad heart. You're a bad person. Now, you're a bad person. Person come and say, but you can't say that. You don't know what's in my heart. You're right. I don't know what's in your heart. But if it's anything like what's on your tongue, or if it's anything like what is upon your limbs, then you are a filthy-hearted person, because your tongue will come off your tongue is filthy, and what your limbs do is filthy. You understand? And then vice versa. Now, so the actions, they are an indication of what is in the heart. So if you are concerned or you are curious, right, about the condition of your heart, and you want to self-diagnose and see, right, what is the condition of your heart, look to your speech. How good is your speech? Look to your actions. How good is your actions? Look to your level of obedience unto Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How good is your level of obedience? Look to you're staying away from and avoiding the sinful affairs and so on and so forth. How well are you in avoiding the sinful affairs and so on and so on? Look to your shyness. How shy are you in front of your Lord Azza wa Jal, so on and so forth. Now, lastly, eighthly, and lastly, is that verily the one who stays away from the doubtful matters, then they will be safe as relates to their deen. Their deen will not be deficient, and they will be safe as relates to their reputation, from any type of censor or criticism. If you stay away from the doubtful matters, you'll be safe in your deen with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because you would have not embarked upon that which is haram. And if you stay away from the doubtful matters, you'll be safe as relates to your reputation, and it will be no way to criticize you for falling into that doubtful affair, because you would have stayed away from it. So your reputation will be safe from criticism from this standpoint. And then the explainer, the Fadilat al-Shaykh Abdul Muhsin, Hafidhahullah Ta'ala, he goes on to the next hadith, the 7th hadith. ولكن نكتفي بهذا القدر، وصلى الله وسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين، وجزاكم الله خيرا.